Hi there, Neil Whitfield from Small Business Big Ideas, here with day 10 of my 101 Small Business Marketing Tips video guide. So nearly 10% of the way through, which is a bit of an achievement in itself. So for those of you who don't know what all this is about, I am recording a video every day, each day giving you a small business marketing tip. And this is taken from a list which I have come across from a website called thebalance.com. And as part of their sort of small business section, they've produced this list of 101 tips, but they are just sort of a bullet point sentence for each tip. So I've taken on the challenge to record a video every day, expanding on each tip. The first few tips for the first week tended to be on the super important fundamental strategic bits, like having a written marketing plan, creating a customer persona, doing market research, crafting your own unique selling proposition, all that sort of important juicy stuff. And what we've been looking at the last couple of days has been a little bit more of the practical side of things, such as what to do with your business cards. And yesterday we were talking about having a physical brochure. So today's tip is to create a digital version of your brochure for your website. And certainly I would suggest if you do have a physical brochure, then this is pretty much a no-brainer. Depending on how you produce the brochure, it should be a simple enough task just to save that as a PDF version. And then if you use something like Dropbox or Google Drive, again, it's very simple just to create a shareable link to that document, and then you can place that link on your website. All that can be achieved quickly and easily for little cost. The benefit of doing so depends on your business and how fast-moving a business it is, how frequently your products and services are likely to change. That will determine how quickly and frequently you need to actually change and update your brochure. If you run a sort of business with an ever-changing product line, then it may make sense to have like a product list and a separate brochure outlining the key services separate to that. Otherwise, you'll be continually updating it. I did ask yesterday fundamentally whether every business needed to have a brochure, whether it be physical or digital. It's interesting actually, since recording the video yesterday, I've just thought about something, a book that I'm not reading because I tend to listen to things on Audible. So I'm listening to it at the minute, called 24 Assets from Daniel Priestley. You may have heard of him. He's written a couple of best-selling books called Key Person of Influence and Oversubscribed, and I strongly recommend you check out all three of those books that I mentioned. The book I'm currently reading is one called 24 Assets. I'm only really at the very start of it, but it's interesting. As part of the process, he directs you to a website where you complete a series of just over 50 questions to determine the sort of the health of your business to follow the model that he's promoting. And interestingly, a couple of the questions do relate to whether you have a physical brochure or an electronic version. I haven't got to the stage of getting the analysis of the results yet. Perhaps I might share that with you as time progresses when I do get that far. But I can only assume if he is asking whether you do have a physical brochure and an electronic version, that he does attribute value to them as being assets for your business. So I might update you on that as I get further into the audio book. But in the meantime, I think it would make sense to have a digital version of your brochure if you can. Perhaps a way to take it to the next level might be potentially to make it available in exchange for some form of email data capture. So don't just necessarily have the link where someone can click on the website. Perhaps direct someone to a landing page or some form of subscription box on the website. So if they do want it, then at least you've got their name or, more importantly, their email address. That way you can enter them into an email sequence to follow up. Because obviously the opposite of that, if you just had a link that they could click on the website and people were downloading willy-nilly, then you wouldn't know who's downloaded it and who hasn't, and therefore you wouldn't be able to follow them up. So certainly I'd suggest it might make sense to restrict that as suggested, so that people do have to give their contact details in order to get it. You don't want to make it too difficult, but I can't imagine people being too upset about giving that level of information. And perhaps a more advanced way of dealing with that would be if you had installed the likes of a Facebook tracking pixel on your website, then you could potentially retarget with Facebook paid advertising people who had been to the page or downloaded your brochure. So that way you have got an understanding that the people you're targeting with the ads have got the information in the brochure. You can't always assume that they've read it, but you can assume that they've been to the page to download it and certainly jump through those hoops. It will require a little bit of setup on your website just to install the pixel and to set everything up and configure it so it is tracking people who are going through that particular action. But it's well worthwhile doing it, because that means you can then target them with Facebook ads, knowing that there's a very high chance that they will have a little bit of information already about your business, and you'd like to think that they may be going further down the line to knowing you and starting to trust you, having already had a look at the electronic version of the brochure. So perhaps that's just a couple of more advanced ways that you can use the electronic brochure. Don't just necessarily give it away for free without asking people to do something for it, or you could use them downloading the brochure as a way to create an audience to then follow up with paid advertising. So that's today's tip, all about an electronic version of your brochure. Hope you found it useful, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks, bye.